And my daughter Diane, who started at camp as a camper at 3 months of age. And Paula was so worried about having a child that young go all the way to Lake George. We went to the pediatrician, and Paula kept asking him questions, and the doctor kept saying, "They have babies at Lake George too." So that's how we got here. Now, one person who is not here, and I'm very sorry that he's not, was a teacher at the Traphagen School when one of the substitute teachers who had just finished his 2-year compulsory military training in the Army was at the school, and we got to talking and chatting, and Herb Klinger encouraged me to apply to Arcady for a job. And it was one of those life-changing, altering moments. Little did I know that that was going to happen. But Herb was just a fabulous, fabulous guy, and he left Arcady much too soon. And I prepared words because I only have 7 minutes, and I wanted to get everything in. And I'm afraid that after 7 minutes, I may be pushed off the stage by Ken. But we'll try and be brief. Describing Ed Trenner is easy. He was the heart and soul of Arcady. He was a warm, compassionate man who earned the respect and trust of campers, parents, and all staff members. He could be tough as nails, but had a great sense of humor and compassion. Now, I thought Max Adelson was going to be here tonight. He never showed up, but I got to tell you Max Adelson's story. Before camp started and the counselors arrived, Ed and I went over the staff lists, and Max Adelson's name was not on it. So lo and behold, as the counselors are pouring in comes Max Adelson. So I looked at Ed and I said, "Gee, I didn't know Max was coming to camp this year." And he turned to me and he said, "Neither did I." But Max stayed, and Max and the Maxmobile went down into Arcady Law. So my Arcady years were spent on the ball fields, and I became Bernie Ball, not to be confused with Bernie Banjo. However, today I was again confused with Bernie Banjo, and that's a compliment because of the two of us, he's the good-looking one, so I took that as a compliment. Eventually, Ed promoted me to assistant director, and I am confident that Mike Goldberg will tell you about the important role of the assistant to the assistant. One spring night, Mr. Brandt called me to his house and informed me that Ed would be leaving at the end of the summer. And although it was incomprehensible that Ed would leave, he asked me to be the new director. Ed served as director through parent visiting, and I became the director at that point. Mr. Brandt had one goal, and that was to make Arcady the very best camp that it could be. He was a good boss and always kind and generous to me and my family. Now I understand that Bobby, John, and Gary Brandt were supposed to come, but I didn't meet them if they're here tonight. Didn't make it. Okay. As long as they paid. Arcady enjoyed happy and successful years. Do you remember camping, canoe trips, visiting other camps, skit night, movie night, flagpole, the fun in the dining hall, arts and crafts, the nature shack, campfires, and mass games? And everybody kept asking me today, what's the name of those things? I think the best mass game that we had was when the counselors rented an airplane and they dropped bags of chocolate chip cookies. Do you remember that one? It was, Diane the camper remembers. It was a great stunt. It created absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam. And I thought it was the greatest thing that ever happened. Then they handed me the bill. Being the director was exciting, rewarding, and challenging. The most challenging was a July night in 1967, when 6 of our young staff went into Hague and through no fault of theirs were involved in a horrible auto accident. There was shock, disbelief, and sadness that gripped the entire Arcady family. Our great staff rallied and cared for the needs of the campers, but the lives of many were changed that night, and the question of why did it happen to our innocent friends will never be answered. It was difficult to rebuild the spirit and magic of Arcady. One thing I learned from Ed, besides recruiting, and funny enough, a bunch of you came over to me earlier and were saying, I remember you when you came with your slideshow and told us all about Arcady, and that's why I came to Arcady. And that was really gratifying. You know, it was interesting going into the homes, talking with the youngsters who would be coming to camp, and then the parents afterwards. It was really interesting and challenging, believe me. And Ed really impressed upon me the importance of selecting counselors and especially group leaders. A successful camp is dependent upon the quality of the staff. Our staffs had the best and brightest young adults, and it was easy to see that success was in your future. The Arcady counselors always had the ability to truly bond with each other, as proved today, and with our campers. I hope that you are aware of the many lives that you touched in a positive way. Do any of you remember Joel Sachs, the great big guy? Okay. Well, in any event, late one night, Paul and I were walking past the cabin of the youngest children, and a little voice cried out, "Mommy, Mommy!" And Joel answered, "I'm coming, I'm coming." You forged memories for yourself, but also for your campers. It is gratifying to be here today, and after all of these years, to observe you displaying the same spirit that made Arcady what it was. This is a tribute to terrific people and a great camp, and it was a real privilege being here to share with you today.